In 1991, a 44-year-old Japanese professor named Hitoshi Igarashi was stabbed to death outside his university office. He had translated a novel. That was his crime. 7 stab wounds. No arrests. 2 years later, in Norway, a publisher barely survived a shooting. In Turkey, a hotel housing a group of intellectuals was set on fire. The target? Another translator. 37 people died in the flames. The novel wasn't new. It wasn't a how-to manual or a manifesto. It was literature, fiction, words on a page. And yet, for some, it was an act of war. Those who read it in secret passed it between hands like contraband. Those who hated it issued death threats, organized riots, and demanded global censorship. But before the fire, before the knives, before the flames, there was just a book. And a man who dared to write it. The novel was the Satanic Verses. Its author, Salman Rushdie. The year, 1988. A British citizen, born in Bombay, educated in Cambridge, writing in English, but carrying centuries deglutinated through empire, migration, and myth. The book opens with 2 men falling from the sky after a terrorist attack on a plane. One becomes angelic, the other demonic. Their names, Jabril Farishta and Saladin Kamcha. That fall, literal and symbolic, sets the tone for everything that follows. Jabril is a Bollywood actor famous for playing gods. Saladin, a voice actor trying to erase his Indian identity. One dreams of becoming divine. The other becomes a monster. The transformations aren't just psychological, they're physical, cultural, existential. The Satanic Verses is not a book with a single story. It moves between timelines, between realities, between dreams and awakenings. Jabril's visions become entire chapters, surreal, theatrical, often sacrilegious. One of them retells the story of the Prophet Muhammad, though here he's called Manhunt, at a name used in medieval Christian texts to demonize Islam. In this dream, he receives verses from the devil, not God. These are the Satanic Verses. Another vision shows a brothel where prostitutes take the names of the prophet's wives. Another features a tyrannical imam exiled in a European city, issuing commands to an invisible army. These aren't accusations, they're hallucinations. But that distinction would soon be lost. Because fiction, especially when it touches the sacred, is rarely read gently. The novel doesn't just question religion. It dissects belief. Faith isn't presented as good or evil, but as a force that morphs, fractures, reforms. Jabril's dreams become battlegrounds between revelation and illusion. One of the most discussed scenes is the insertion and later removal of the Satanic Verses. In the dream, Manhunt is tricked by the devil into accepting verses that endorse pagan goddesses. Later, he revokes them, calling them the work of Satan. This isn't Rushdie accusing Islam of falsehood. It's a dramatization of a theological tradition. The episode of the Satanic Verses exists in some Islamic historiographies, controversial, yes, but not invented from nothing. But Rushdie doesn't just play with history, he plays with form. The book mixes magical realism, postmodern irony, stream of consciousness, political satire, religious allegory. It's not a novel, it's a labyrinth. Kamcha's transformation into a devilish figure, horns, hooves, tail, echoes the demonization of the immigrant. Jabril's descent into messianic madness reflects the peril of unanchored belief. The novel asks, when we leave home, through migration, through betrayal, through trauma, what do we become? Who are we when torn between 2 languages, 2 cultures, 2 gods? The Satanic Verses is not an answer. It's a provocation. And in 1989, that provocation detonated. On February 14, 1989, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa, a religious decree calling for the death of Salman Rushdie and anyone involved in the publication of the Satanic Verses. It was not metaphorical. It was a bounty, $3 million for Rushdie's head. The call to murder was broadcast internationally and interpreted literally by many. Protests erupted across the Muslim world, from London to Islamabad. Bookstores were bombed. Libraries were pressured to remove the novel. In the United States, some stores refused to stock it. In India, the book was banned entirely. In Egypt, a sheikh called it a Zionist conspiracy to destroy Islam. Then came the attacks. In 1991, Hitoshi Igarashi, the Japanese translator, was stabbed to death. The Italian translator, Ettore Capriolo, was wounded in his home. The Norwegian publisher was shot. The Turkish translator escaped a firebombing that killed dozens. Rushdie himself went into hiding under British police protection. He lived for years with armed guards, changing locations every few days. Despite this, the novel sold over 500,000 copies in its first year. Penguin Books, the publisher, received death threats but refused to withdraw it. The fatwa remained active for decades. Even after Iran's government distanced itself, the bounty persisted, renewed by private clerics and extremist groups. In August 2022, at a literary festival in New York, Rushdie was attacked on stage. He lost an eye. The blade reached his liver and spine. The Satanic Verses is not dangerous because it insults. It's dangerous because it refuses to be clear. It never says, "This is the truth." It says, "Here are dreams. Interpret them." It mocks certainty. It embraces contradiction. And for many, that is more threatening than any insult. It asks, what happens when someone who looks like you, speaks your language, shares your gods, dares to question the very foundations of identity? Rushdie's crime, for many, wasn't blasphemy. It was betrayal, an insider breaking the silence. A brown man, educated in the West, refusing to flatter either side. That's why the outrage wasn't just Islamic. Western critics called the novel opaque, egotistical, self-indulgent. Some said it wasn't worth the blood. But the question remains, should fiction ever be punished? If a novel can provoke riots, should it be silenced or studied more carefully? The Satanic Verses forces us to confront not just religion, but the architecture of outrage. Who gets to be offended? Who gets to speak? And who gets to live after speaking? Hitoshi Igarashi never wrote a book. He translated one. That was enough. Enough to die for. Salman Rushdie, after decades of hiding, stepped back into the light and was stabbed again. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, just stabbed. And yet the Satanic Verses still circulates, still sells, still disturbs. Was it worth it? Was the book worth the pain, the deaths, the exile? You decide. Was it art? Or was it an unforgivable provocation? Comment below. And if this story haunted you, wait until you see what happened when religion collided with science in a novel that reimagined the Vatican under siege. Click to watch Angels and Demons.